to the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello, welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Right, on the show today, there are controversies and a lot of drama swirling around cricket and the T20 World Cup in the Americas. Pakistan gears up to take on Canada in a must-win today, and at the backdrop of all this is the angst, the anger and the anguish of legends of Pakistan who've called for heads to roll and players to be sent back to sit at home. Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis, to name a few, are enraged. I'll tell you more on that developing story. Bangladesh cricket fans and commentators are up in arms after the team lost yet another low-scoring affair to South Africa by 4 runs. An umpiring error at the heart of all this. Was Bangladesh robbed of a win? Stay tuned for that. And Vinicius Jr. says he plays no victim, says he's the tormentor of racists. After 3 football fans who racially abused Vinicius were sent to prison, we asked, does the law only recognize the big names? And did Vinicius' stature result in justice being delivered so soon? But first, a look at the headlines on Sports 360. We'll start with football. Benin defeated Nigeria in 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. They beat Nigeria 2-1. Jorel Dosu and Steve Mooney scored 1 goal each for the team with 3 points in 4 matches. Nigeria sit 5th in Group C. Nigeria needs to at least finish 2nd to stand a chance to qualify for the World Cup. Netherlands scored 4 past Iceland in friendlies. In Netherlands' 4-0 victory, Xavi Simons scored in the first half. Virgil van Dijk and Wout Weghorst added 2 more goals in the second half. This was Netherlands' last friendly match. They will face Poland on the 16th of June in the Euros. Over in Formula One, Lando Norris has blamed his team McLaren for losing the Canadian Grand Prix. After finishing 2nd in the race, Norris blamed team's decision for a longer pit stop as the reason behind his loss. Red Bull's Max Verstappen, of course, ended up winning the Grand Prix after he finished around 4 seconds quicker than Norris. Over in athletics, Belgium's Alexander Doom bagged gold in the 400-meter race at the European Athletics Championships. Doom broke the championship record after he finished the race in 44.15 seconds. Great Britain's Charles Dobson took the silver medal, finished with a time of 44.38 seconds. And rounding off with hockey news, Indian Hockey Federation is set to host the Men's Junior World Cup in 2025. The host city is yet to be announced. The 14th edition of the tournament will feature 24 teams for the very first time. India, of course, has hosted the tournament thrice before, in 2013 in New Delhi, 2016 in Lucknow, and the latest one in 2021 in Bhubaneswar. Now, in the group stage of a Cricket World Cup, every win, every point becomes critical, especially when matches could get rained out, or teams end up on same points, and it then comes down to the net run rate. Bangladesh players and fans are fuming after their loss by just 4 runs to South Africa in a nail-biting finish. Another one in New York. And it's all because of a rule, one unfortunate moment in the game that changed Bangladesh's fortunes. Could this defeat prove to be decisive in their qualification? Because this is how their group looks. It's a tough one compared to the other pairings. This group has the potential for upsets and a lot of topsy-turvy results. It has South Africa, of course, sitting at the top, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Netherlands and Nepal. So what happened? South Africa managed to score just 113 runs. New York, again, becoming a trend of having low-scoring thrillers. That's becoming a norm here. In response, Bangladesh faltered at the start, but despite being 4 wickets down with 50 plus on board, they had Mahmudullah at the crease. Someone known to steer run chases, has been in tense situations in the past. A senior hand and very capable of taking this home for Bangladesh. It was the 17th over. Mahmudullah had scored 16 runs and the equation was 87 for 4, 27 needed from 24 runs. And that's when something happened. The bowler was Otniel Bartman. During that over, in the second delivery itself, Mahmudullah was given out LBW, leg before wicket, to delivery that looks like it's going down the leg. The South African team is celebrating, even as two things happen thereafter. The ball races away to the ropes, and Mahmudullah immediately goes up to review the decision. The reviews show the ball indeed going down leg side and missing the stumps. The umpire is forced to overturn his call, but here's what happens because of that. The 4 leg byes are not awarded. Why? Because of the rules that's already in place concerning such an incident. The rules state that no extra runs, leg byes or byes, will be awarded if an on-field umpire gives a batter out LBW, even if the decision is overturned by the third umpire. Those 4 leg byes were basically null and void the moment the umpire lifted his finger. And it was rather quick. Bangladesh skipper Shanto, who's a rather well-composed, calm head in the dressing room, was visibly upset. He was angry with the way that moment had played out. And two things happened there because of the umpire's rapid decision. Didn't give much thought before processing that, especially on a delivery that was clearly going down the leg side. One, Bangladesh didn't get those 4 crucial runs. Now you can say, oh, but you're saying this in hindsight and the match is already over. In a low-scoring target at a venue that has troubled batters, every run matters. In a run chase of this kind, every score is important. And two, you've broken the rhythm of the batting side that is looking to steady the ship and take it ashore. Even after that, the equation was still very gettable, yes, despite a few wickets falling. Bangladesh took the fight right to the last over, and guess what? They ended up on the losing side by, yes, 4 runs. Simon Doull, a commentator and someone who reads the game really well, said this was a howler.
Just imagine if this happens in a final. Let's say India are on the wrong end of it. There has got to be some change in the way the system works. That was a howler. It was a poor decision. The umpire raised his finger as quickly as a gunslinger. The result? It was 4 leg byes.
Yeah, he says, imagine if this was India and imagine if this was a World Cup final. Social media erupted with other commentators as well coming in, so too fans, all showing their emotions on this cruel twist of fate, from anguish to anger. Now, rules are great. I'm all in for rules, anything that brings some sort of order and regulation to a sport. But rules are meant to be constantly reviewed. The responsibility of maintaining that balance in the game rests with the authorities. Now, I can't help going back to that woeful 2019 World Cup final between England and New Zealand. A rule like the boundary count resulted in a team that was equally deserving of winning the World Cup missing out. Rules need to be in place to help the game get better, to make the competition more fair. Any rule that results in a team wrongfully missing out doesn't work. Any rule that overrides a team's true efforts will come under the scanner, like this one, and the boundary count rule, which ultimately forced the ICC to address it and amend that rule. Now, I know it's a thin line. It's all about navigating the laws and human emotions and true nature, trying to achieve the right balance between these two. It's not easy. But here's the thing, competition is so intense now, and when the stakes are so high, in this case, what's on the line is a qualifying spot for the next stage of a World Cup. Then the rules will just have to be as foolproof as possible. Now, it's been more than a day since that humiliating loss to India at the T20 Cricket World Cup, but the din and the noise in Pakistan and around the world that after the defeat is still ringing loud. Now, look, losses are a part of sport, but the way Pakistan choked, first against U.S.A. and then against India, has enraged a whole nation. Social media platforms were on fire with caustic remarks that former Pakistan cricketers, fans, and now even the management have made. Some of them screaming through the screens. Pakistan legend Wasim Akram, in fact, summing up this utter disappointment in one word. He says, embarrassment. His teammate during the glory years of Pakistan, Waqar Yunus, he's come out calling this a horrible performance. Former Pakistani selector Mohammad Wasim criticized the politics around this. He said they've taken reserves because of infighting and pulling the sport down. Ramiz Raja, another former cricketer, was more insulting. He said India did Pak a favor by playing poorly. And he puts Babar Azam's team under the spotlight, saying they froze under pressure. Now, after all this, the PCB has finally stepped into this to say that a major surgery is indeed required. Now, let those words sink in, especially that of Waqar and Akram, players who took Pakistan to a World Cup final in 1999. Akram was even part of that historic 1992 World Cup win. Bottom line, what they're all saying is that this team has been a disgrace, a shadow of what Pakistan has achieved and what they stood for in cricket. And the PCB chief finally putting the cherry on the cake, or should we say the criticisms, and asking for operation to be conducted. Now, hold on, I'm confused. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did that not happen right after that horrible below-par performance at the ODI World Cup last year? Starting with the team captain, Babar Azam, who was forced to step down. The coach, Mickey Arthur, and his entire staff sacked. The chiefs of selection, Inzamam ul Haq, fired. Mohammad Hafiz then was temporarily brought on board as team director, and after some months, he too was removed. If this was not a major operation, a cleanse of the system, if you want to call it so, then what was it? There was a completely different set of people put in place. Even the PCB chief was changed. Zaka Ashraf back then made way to Mosim Naqvi. All these drastic changes were made knowing there was another World Cup coming in just 9 months. So I'm sorry to be the messenger here bearing bad news, but the management needs to sit up, take stock and notice what is happening in the cricket setup of a country that at one time boasted of some of the greatest in the world. They were known to be a group of champion cricketers with a vision, with intent and a spirit to fight. No one was more angry and seething than Wasim Akram, and he said more.
I have a request for the chairman of PCB. Take a bold step. Forget about who is angry for not getting captaincy. You are working for the country. Stop these things. There are players who don't want to talk to each other. This is international cricket, and you play for your country. Make these players sit at home.
Hard-hitting words from someone who obviously is hurting. He says they should be made to sit at home. The players should go back home, says Akram, and you can sense so much in those words, from anger to anguish. The same Akram who went and met this bunch ahead of their campaign opener against USA, all smiles, wishing them well, is livid now and is letting it all out. Not just the hurt that he's feeling, but also the truth that many are not openly talking about. The truth that is plaguing Pakistan, among many other things, that's preventing them from playing as one team. He refers to infighting, to camps within the squad, fighting over captaincy, egos clashing, all about the I instead of the we. It doesn't take a genius to figure who all Akram is blaming for a campaign that's threatening to fall apart once more. Now, we know how passionate and bold Pakistan fans are. They are the first to praise and the first to criticize as well. And this recent loss to India meant they didn't hold back. All heard of a nation united in happiness and grief, but a nation saying the same words after a sporting setback. You can only see that in Pakistan. And I understand the anger. Pakistan last won a T20 World Cup 15 years ago in 2009. Their only ODI World Cup win, like we mentioned, came in 1992. This is decades of being hopeful, showing up to cheer the team on, continuing to support the men in green, and only being handed out one disappointment after another. Their best ever performance in T20 World Cup since 2009 was, of course, the last edition's appearance in the final, a final that they lost to England. And against India, it's always been a one-sided affair. The biggest rivalry in cricket on the world stage has always been in India's favour. Pakistan's last ICC victory came in 2017, where they won the Champions Trophy. Their Test cricket is in shambles. Their ODI team clueless, and let's not get to the T20 setup. I think we've said enough. It feels like the side has been in transition mode for over a decade now. All is not lost yet. There is, of course, some hope of qualifying, but it's all about permutations and combinations, and it depends on the other teams too. The odds are indeed stacked up high against Pakistan. Either way, the call from all concerned is to rejig the setup, make bold changes, and try to rectify a system where there's a rot that seems to be running deep. If not now, at least in time for the Champions Trophy set to take place in Pakistan next year. A host country stumbling at its own event, that just won't do. Now, 3 Valencia football fans were handed out jail sentence. They will spend 8 months in prison and face a 2-year ban from football stadiums in Spain. This was for their hate crimes against star footballer Vinicius Jr. The announcement was made by a Spanish court in Valencia. It's a historic move, a first ever conviction for racist insults in a football stadium in Spain. First in years and decades of racial abuses. So I asked, did justice get delivered quickly because it was involving someone of the stature of Vinicius? What if it was a rather nondescript footballer, as has happened in the past? Is justice in Spanish football only reserved to serve the elite?
Champions League winner, La Liga champion, Ballon d'Or contender, Brazil's shining star and Real Madrid's pride. That sums up who Vinicius Jr is to the world of football. The star power associated with the Brazilian forward cannot be ignored. And while he's much loved by his own team and fans, rival club supporters, in Spain particularly, only have hatred for him. It seems harsh, but Vinicius only sees it that way. The footballer has been subjected to racist slurs for years now.
Eu tenho que me concentrar muito todos os dias. Eu só queria jogar futebol, só quero fazer de tudo pelo meu clube e pela minha família.
While many culprits remain unidentified, 3 Valencia fans were caught and charged. The culprits pleaded guilty to their charges and were given 8 months of prison sentence. They will also not be allowed to enter a football stadium in Spain for 2 years. After the decision was made, Vinicius took to Twitter to say this.
Many asked me to ignore it. Many others said that my fight was in vain and that I should just play football. But as I have always said, I'm not a victim of racism. I'm a tormentor of racists. This first criminal conviction in the history of Spain is not for me. It's for all black people. May other races be afraid, ashamed, and hide in the shadows. Otherwise, I'll be here to collect.
The move was historic as it was the first criminal conviction in the history of Spain's football. While one can celebrate thinking what a bold step towards correcting a wrongdoing that many have been subjected to for thousands of years, it also highlights the key issue here: why no such decisions were made in the past. Spain has a history of having the cruelest of football fans. On the one hand, they adore their star players like Lionel Messi, but can also be brutal towards the opposition. And in the quest of that passion, they end up crossing the line many times. Over the years, several footballers have faced what Vinicius has recently. Back in 2000, Malaga's Dario Silva faced racism from an Oviedo fan. But instead of taking action against the fan, Silva faced charges because of his physical assault. In 2004 as well, during a friendly between England and Spain, England's Andy Cole, Rio Ferdinand, Jermaine Defoe and Sean Wright-Phillips were subject to racist chants and Spanish fans making monkey noises. FIFA imposed a $112,000 fine on the Spanish Football Federation, but the fans were not charged. The list includes another elite player. In 2006, Samuel Eto'o was subjected to monkey chants in a match against Getafe. And while these were just restricted to the football field, one case still made it to the court. In 2020, Bilbao's Williams was subjected to xenophobic hate crime by Espanyol fans. The matter was taken to the Spanish court and a trial is underway. While the prosecutors are seeking 2 years in prison for the fan, no decision has been made yet, and it's already been 4 years. There is history here, and no proper judgment, barring now when it happens to be Vinicius. It took Vinicius less than a year to get his plea heard. Was the decision in Vinicius's case only made because he's one of the rising stars of football? Was it because of the growingly sensitive times that we live in? So you can't take any chance to be subjected to ridicule for lack of taking action. But even so, had this happened to another footballer, would the situation have been dealt with differently like it has in the past? Even Madrid's involvement in the matter made the process quicker. Had Vinicius not been a star, even Spain may have ignored the matter. They want the world to see that justice has been served. But is that really the entire picture? What about the several other players who suffered in the past? And while Eto'o and Ferdinand are still some big names, there are cases in Spanish Division 2 and lower levels of football that go unnoticed. True, Vinicius may be setting an example, but is Spanish football really waking up against racism only now? Or is it just another ploy to keep a star player happy? Because if Vinicius leaves, it would be a massive setback for not just Madrid, but all of Spanish football.
Time for last serve. Yannick Sinner may have missed out on yet another Grand Slam, but the new men's singles world #1 is soaking it all in. Take a look.
This is a dream what I've dreamed of when I was a little kid. It was only a dream that day, and now that that I can say that I'm world #1.
That wraps it up here on First Sports. Do join in again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. A first-of-a-kind sports show that's played on a different turf. A first-of-a-kind sports show that will always come up with a winner. Are you looking for perspectives that go beyond the scoreline? Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani, and catch a 360-degree view of the sporting world with me here on Firstpost in our special First Sports.